everybody. This is Fred Quinones from qtheexperts at eXp Realty. Did you know that hurricane season is upon us? And even though it's a beautiful day outside, we always have to think in the background that there always could be a hurricane with a stamp on our forehead at some point in time, right? Hopefully that doesn't come anytime soon for any of us. I always wish us to be all safe and protected, but the reality is that living in the subtropics, you always have that concern that has to be really in the forefront of your mind at some point or another, right? So what are you doing? Are you preparing yourself for hurricane season? Here are some of the things that I would think that you should consider now that we're moving quickly into it, especially for people who are just moving here or people considering moving here, purchasing, selling, etc. So first off is preparedness, right? We want to make sure that if you live in a flood zone or a non-flood zone, you consider a few things. Obviously, if you live in a flood zone, you really need to consider when a hurricane is moving towards us, that you understand your evacuation zones, you understand your escape route, you understand what level of evacuation you are, so that if they call your number or letter, so to speak, that you're ready and have a plan and are not wondering which way do I have to go in case, something does come our way, right? Now, living in a non-flood zone doesn't necessarily mean that you are free and clear, because consider this: you may live in a non-flood zone, but the areas around you and adjacent to you may be in flood zones. So what does that mean for you? If a hurricane does come, you may not be flooded, but if for any reason you feel as though you would like to leave or evacuate or have to for any reason, you might find that the areas around you are all flooded and you can't escape, or you can't leave if you choose. So consider, in the overall scheme of things, that you just have a general idea of what your flood zone is, what are the evacuation zones, what routes can I take, so that in case I have to or I choose to, that I can do so if needed when the time comes, right? Ways you can gather that information is going onto the FEMA websites or your county websites, which should have flood zones, flood plains, and also some evacuation information for you. Some basic things that you can also do is just being prepared, right? Not only do you want to know what flood zones you live in and how to get out if needed, you could also consider just getting a, safety kit, correct? Having medical supplies, having, just some working batteries around the house, flashlights that work, and also things such as, just some toiletries and things of that nature. You might want to consider some dry canned foods, just having some in the pantries, so that in case, as you start to hear if anything's coming, maybe just start stocking up a few things, not going off the deep end, right? Unless it's necessary, just so that you're not having to frantically get to stores while other people are running there, right? If you have hurricane-proof windows, you're pretty much set. But if you don't, I would consider, either buying plywood, not necessarily to get it all ready, but if you could get yourself all measured and ready and have your windows set so that, God forbid, that day comes, you do have stuff available and all already situated, that would be fantastic for you. They also have other materials that you can use other than plywood. But it is a consideration, not being overly protective or concerned, but just being prepared, right? Because God only knows. Another thing that you can do if the financial means are there is you can buy yourself a generator. Generators are good in Florida regardless, because especially in the summer season when we get a lot of crazy lightning storms and stuff, you could lose power for a day or two. A transformer can blow and you might be out of power for a little bit. Having a generator is always a good thing, because you can, turn on your power and power some of the more important things in your home, like the refrigerator, maybe one bedroom. And to couple that, since we live in Florida and humid and hot outside, you can consider getting yourself a window AC unit, which, for example, we have. God forbid the power goes out, I can just put it in the window, and at least one room can be powered with AC and be comfortable versus none of us, right? Because a generator generally will not power, a full central AC unit unless you have one of those Generac generators, which are full home and very costly. If you have that, God bless you. If you don't, a regular generator would be fine, right? So another thing to consider about, and especially with real estate, is obviously you want to protect your assets. So having some limbs that are close to your house trimmed back are super important. Making sure no limbs are touching your roof or home is important, not only for the longevity of your roof, but just in case storms do come. As you get closer to a storm coming, taking all that additional stuff that's outside, like for example that birdhouse or some other things, because that birdhouse can turn into a torpedo, right, with 100 and something plus winds flying around, right? So you want to definitely get rid of all that extra stuff that can turn into debris, store it away as you get closer. But if you're going to sell or buy a home, things to consider if you're buying is that you need to try to purchase within the window that a hurricane's cone is not projected to be in. So for example, if a category tropical storm has a trajectory, a cone on the weather channel or some weather forecast showing that it's going directly towards your area and you're in the cone, you will not be able to bind insurance to be able to purchase your home until that said storm moves outside of your trajectory or it's already passed and there's no substantial or any damage to your home. So be very vigilant and mindful when crafting an offer, even in the middle of hurricane season, that if you're deciding that you need to close and you see that there is, a storm in the Atlantic, right, that you ensure that it's not coming towards your way, because you won't be able to get insurance and you'll either have to delay close, your plans might be changed, or you might not be able to get insurance at all. So something to consider. And selling as well, it might be better to start considering selling now, even though right now is probably the best time anyway, because most buyers are now kids are out of school and people are starting to try and re-situate themselves before the school year starts. But as we get into the latter part of the summer, especially around August up to September 11th, which is I think the busiest week of hurricane season, you definitely want to make sure that your plans with real estate are situated pretty tight and that you're not in any windows of concern. So hopefully this information has been very useful for you to kind of get a little prepared for what is now hurricane season here in Florida. If you have any questions in regards to this, whether you're buying and or selling, I, Fred Quiñones or Nicole Quiñones, would be honored to help you with all of your real estate needs. And just consider that, it is a beautiful time of the year, but you want to make sure you have the right realtors to be able to help you through and navigate through this season in case anything does, get a little weird, right? So I would be honored, or Nicole would be honored to help you. The only thing you need to do is give us a call at 727-291-1710. So hopefully we'll see you next month in our new newsletter, and we hope you have a wonderful and joyous summer and a safe summer. Have a good day.